The National Rifle Association, NRA, has launched a federal lawsuit against the state of California over its restrictive handgun regulations, particularly those impacting Glock pistols. The case targets California's Unsafe Handgun Act, UHA, a law requiring new semi-automatic handguns to include microstamping technology and specific safety features before they can be sold in the state. The NRA argues that these rules are unconstitutional and amount to a de facto handgun ban, preventing citizens from purchasing popular, commonly used firearms for self-defense. This lawsuit represents one of the most significant legal challenges to California's gun laws in years. It has the potential to influence national firearm regulations, given the state's reputation as a testing ground for progressive gun control policies. Summary of the dispute. At the heart of the NRA's complaint is California's requirement that all new semi-automatic handguns be equipped with microstamping technology, a process that imprints a unique identifying code onto shell casings when a gun is fired. The state argues that this technology helps law enforcement trace firearms used in crimes. However, the NRA, joined by gun owners and manufacturers, claims the rule is technologically unfeasible and intentionally restrictive, effectively preventing companies like Glock from selling new handgun models in California. Glock has long been one of the most popular firearm brands in the U.S., widely used by law enforcement and civilians alike. Yet under California's law, newer Glock models are barred from sale because they lack microstamping. Only older models, grandfathered into the roster before 2007, remain legal, a situation the NRA says deprives Californians of safer, more advanced handgun options. The NRA's legal team asserts that California's roster and safety requirements violate the Second Amendment by banning commonly owned firearms that are standard across the rest of the country. They also argue the law discriminates against manufacturers by imposing unique burdens not found in federal regulations. Analysis. Reasons behind the lawsuit. The NRA's lawsuit arises from deep ideological and practical divisions over gun control and constitutional rights. 1. Technological feasibility. Microstamping technology, though theoretically useful for tracing crimes, is still largely experimental and unreliable. Critics argue that markings wear off quickly and that the technology is costly to implement. No major gun manufacturer currently produces microstamped firearms for commercial sale. 2. Second Amendment challenge. The Supreme Court's 2022 Brune decision reaffirmed that gun restrictions must align with the nation's historical traditions. The NRA contends that California's handgun roster fails this test, as no historical precedent supports banning entire categories of firearms due to technological criteria. 3. California's broader gun policy. California has some of the strictest gun laws in the U.S., including assault weapon bans, magazine limits, and background checks for ammunition. Supporters say these measures save lives, while opponents view them as unconstitutional overreach. The Glock ban represents the latest flashpoint in this ongoing conflict. 4. Political symbolism. Beyond legal arguments, this lawsuit carries political weight. The NRA aims to rally gun owners nationwide by portraying California as the symbol of government overreach and bureaucratic interference in individual rights. Consequences and implications. The outcome of this lawsuit could have sweeping consequences. Legal precedent. If the NRA succeeds, the ruling could invalidate not only California's handgun roster, but also similar restrictions in other states. It could set a new national standard limiting how far states can go in regulating firearm safety technologies. Public safety concerns. California officials argue that removing the roster could flood the market with untested or unsafe guns, potentially undermining decades of progress in reducing accidental shootings and firearm-related deaths. Market impact. Gun manufacturers may benefit significantly from a ruling against California, as it would reopen one of the largest consumer markets in the U.S. to new handgun models. Political fallout. A win for the NRA would energize gun rights advocates ahead of future elections, while a loss could embolden gun control movements to pursue even stricter regulations. Predictions. Legal experts predict a long battle. The case is expected to move through several stages, potentially reaching the U.S. Supreme Court. Based on the court's recent rulings favoring individual gun rights, the NRA may have a stronger case than in past decades. The justices could determine whether California's law imposes an unconstitutional burden on the right to bear arms. In the short term, California is likely to defend its policy aggressively, citing data linking stricter gun laws to lower firearm death rates. The state could also argue that the microstamping rule does not outright ban guns, but rather enforces safety and traceability standards. However, public sentiment remains divided. Many Californians support strict gun control as necessary for public safety, while gun rights groups nationwide see this as the perfect opportunity to challenge restrictive laws once and for all. Possible solutions and path forward. 5. Technological reform. Instead of mandating unproven microstamping, states could incentivize voluntary adoption of reliable technologies such as smart gun mechanisms, trigger locks, or improved ballistic databases. 6. Uniform national standards. Establish a federal framework for firearm traceability that respects both safety concerns and constitutional rights, preventing a patchwork of conflicting state laws. 7. Public-private collaboration. Encourage dialogue between firearm manufacturers, law enforcement, and policymakers to develop realistic safety innovations without restricting consumer choice. 8. Transparency and safety testing. California could revise its roster system to allow updated testing procedures, enabling newer models like Glock Gen 5 to enter the market if they meet objective safety benchmarks. 9. Balanced legislation. A compromise law might maintain consumer safety while removing elements seen as intentionally exclusionary or punitive toward manufacturers. Conclusion. The NRA's lawsuit against California marks a pivotal moment in America's ongoing gun debate, one that pits technological mandates and safety regulations against constitutional freedoms and consumer rights. Whether this case leads to the rollback of California's restrictive laws or reaffirms the state's authority to regulate firearms, it will shape the future of gun policy nationwide. At its core, the dispute over Glock handguns is about more than hardware. It's a test of how far a state can go to regulate tools of self-defense in a nation deeply divided over the meaning of the Second Amendment.